Good morning, Paul. It's true. I will discuss water, but I'm going to avoid technical issues. Engineering, water engineering. Just to commit to the title of this conference. It's the political economy and hegemony, and so I try to commit to this title and to apply it to the model I will discuss today, which is water sector. Before starting. Uh, Before starting, I started with a thesis or a saying that Israel is a state changes even before it became a state. So the Zionist movement with its productivity never changes. And however, it has the capacity and the future vision to adapt to the international changes just to serve its settlement on colonizing project. Israel adapts completely to the international variables, especially in the region, just to serve its Zionist project without changing itself and without changing its core. And opposite to what's happening in Palestine, we change our core, but we don't know how to adapt. In this regard, Israel is maintaining or sustaining two main elements in regarding water. And I'm talking about water because I only understand about water. So the first is hegemony, and the second is the subjugation of Palestinians, not only to control them, but to make them unable to take any step in water sector without imposing our political vision. And in order to understand the thesis and in order to support this thesis, I would like to discuss the last 30 years. What happened in the last 30 years? How did Israel benefit and adapt with the international variations in order to serve its water benefits? So it is something. It is liquid within the depth of the ground. So first of all, how did Israel benefit from the Washington Consensus in 1989 before the demolition of the Soviet Union? There were three elements that are related to the privatization, the freedom of transferring money, and then the retreat of the role of the individual. This is what Israel did since the establishment of the Zionist movement and until the beginning of the 90s. Israel was a public sector that was 100% owned by the state in its management institutions and financed by the state. But then it started to change its policies, and it allowed to establish sanitation stations, and then it created the Ministry of Water that was headed by Ariel Sharon, and then it was transferred to the Water Authority that was functioning after beyond the government's control. The second element is that Israel has started to promote around the world, just as was said in the Washington Consensus, that water is a commodity and not a right. And so it's commodification of water. It's considering it as a commodity. And this is what we see how it served its colonizing vision. Israel also has benefited from the approaches of the World Bank in order to restructure of water around the world and in our region, in what is called the MENA region. Almost all countries have restructured their water sector as per the request from the World Bank, and we will see now why they did this. As for the Barcelona Declaration, have referred clearly I think it was 1995, have clearly pointed out to the privatization and clearly point out to the necessity to have regional cooperation. And this is where Israel has started to infiltrate itself through such a cooperation just to control water. Same for the greater Middle East and the new Middle East, whether it was of Shimon Peres or Condoleezza Rice. And not only this infiltration through what's called a regional cooperation or to confront or encounter the climate change or to mitigate the needs for traditional water or try to find new water resources like sanitation. Israel is the second country in the world in water salination. So this is how they've benefited from such international organizations and international entities and projects in the region to spread its hegemony and to infiltrate to the Middle East. And we will see later how did this affect its stability. We will now look into three models that we as Palestinians had. I'm not going to discuss the technical issues. Israel is controlling 80% of our water resources. The Oslo Accord, I have a definition. So there's a big zero at the beginning and a big zero at the end, and we're still running between the two zeros. So I'm talking about water here. So and in other issues, maybe the two zeros are much bigger. Anyway, in Oslo Accord, there were three issues that Israel have empowered itself through the hegemony I just mentioned earlier. It's not only about to benefit from the international position or hegemony, to benefit from the regional projects, the greater Middle East and the new Middle East and Barcelona and the alliance of the Mediterranean. All these Israel have benefited from in hegemony, but the infiltration, how did it happen? In Oslo, at the beginning of it started with Oslo. In Oslo, there are four main issues that were very important for Israel, and I personally, we say that the Palestinians, that Israel did not commit to the implementation of agreements. Well, in regarding water, it did implement it 100% because the 100% were in its favor. Oslo had item 14, it said that recognition of the Palestinian right in water. That was the first. And then in the fourth item, it mentioned then the final negotiations will define what are the rights. So when they came to the bilateral negotiation, they said, no, we're talking about the right of benefit and not the right to and not the right of ownership. It's how to use, just the use, the right of use, and not the right of ownership. And then they separated between the resources and the services, whether you can spend as much, consume water as much as you can, but I'm the owner. I can give you as much as I want, but you use it as you wish. So it's you want to sell it in Nablus or Hebron or Nablus, but the source, I'm the controller of the main source, and that's why to have a control on resources was never mentioned. The Jordan Valley was never mentioned. But what's most risky in the Oslo regime is that the relationship between the Palestinian Authority, and here between the Palestinian Authority and the State of Israel, and Mekrot, actually, and Mekrot is a commercial relationship. And after the signature of the agreement, Israel raised the price of its of the cost, and the relationship is where Mekrot company and not the government of Israel. What happened next is that there were projects on a local level under the guidance of the World Bank, other projects on the regional level also under the control of the World Bank or the management of the World Bank and funders, just to let Israel in to benefit, as I said, to benefit from the Barcelona Accord or the other alliances and the salination, and which Israel has had it since then. In this context, there were three projects that were discussed: the Bahrain Channel, the joint interest water, and salination projects. Let's talk about the salination projects. Israel has 12 salination facilities were established with a capacity of 250 million cubic meters that they're active in Ascalon and Khdeira and other areas. 4 that are ongoing, under construction, and 4 are planned. The director of the water authority, Shmuel Tal, said in Rome, in a forum in Rome, he said, that was in 2017, he said in 2022 we will have excess of water, of salinated water, by 200 million cubic meter, and the consumer will be Jordan and the Palestinian Authority. So and Jordan is now negotiating to buy water from Israel, and so are we. So practically Israel exactly knows what it wants. It's looking at establishing salination facilities. In return, okay, you can take as much water as you wish, you as a Palestinian, but this has nothing to do with rights. This is on commercial basis. This relationship is commercial basis, and that's why Israel has privatized the water. All salination facilities are private sector, and so you buy the water just like you buy tomatoes and like you buy dairies, and this is part of the subjugation. We buy now from Israel 83%, 83 million cubic meters yearly, and we negotiate to get more. Now we're buy mixed water from the Jordan Valley and salinated water, but every year, and if you look at the statistics, every year these numbers increase, because our population increase and our capacity to extract water is not allowed, because and so the more we our needs increase, the more we increase our dependence on Israel. In 2030, and when we say it like this, it will be around all our water resources, all our water services will be completely dependable, about 80 to 85% on Israel. So this is about salination. The other point is the Bahrain Channel. The Bahrain Channel was founded since the Johannesburg conference, the summit that Paris had presented this project. It's the Bahrain Channel is to transfer water from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea, and to benefit from the difference in the height, in order to have water generation and to feed into Amman. And also technically, so we're going to salinate water on minus 240 below sea level, and then raise it to Halhul, to 1,700. So Palestinians, if they drink whiskey, it would be much cheaper for them than to get water, because it will cost around 3 shekels per liter. But this and that's and Jordan has just acknowledged this and just wanted to get out of this project. But even if they at least this will serve Israel, and it will have the certainty. And if you don't want this, we'll give you that. Again, this project of Bahrain Channel is also is established on a earthquake area, land that is not really stable, so it might happen. So what happens at the Bahrain Channel, it's Israel somehow retreated in order to oblige Palestinians to go on with it. The other point, how can we restructure the water institutions in the region and in Palestine in order to serve the Israeli salination projects? The World Bank uh, uh, claimed that the Palestinian, and this is there in there should have four services into water services in Palestine: north, central, south, and Gaza. Or for when you see them geographically, they are parallel to the four salination facilities in Palestine, in Israel. Gosh Dan to Ashkelon and so on. So it's not only that these serve the Zionist project, but it also the cantons and now there is the cantons of the north, the center of the south, and so this desalination is will serve them in buying from desalination companies in Israel. And here we need to note two things. We need to note the complementarity between the water policies, Israeli policies, and other issues like Jerusalem Judaization and settlements and refugees. And then to the vision to the future. What do they want in the future? Israel in the future needs wants to have Palestine from the river to the sea and to transform the Palestinian citizens from citizens to customers for the desalination facilities of Israel. So this is very clear. What about accumulation? In 1930, there was a kibbutz in Bisan before the establishment of the State of Israel. And so someone came from Tennessee. His name was Eli Iban. He was a water engineer. So he came to help out this kibbutz. You know what he told them? He told them three things. He said, first, a good Zionist is really measured by the number of dunams he owns. So as much as land you have, the better you are. Second, told them the future is the valleys of and I'm a geology engineer. So like the Green Line area. So this is where mountains stop and the internal coast starts. So this is where he told them the underground will go to these areas, and that's why Israel have deployed 120 wells. Of they are there in sideline, but they reserve the water from the West Bank mountains. And the third thing that he recommended them to do, told them, please keep always think 30 years ahead about your needs of water. And this is what's happening. Israel has set the plan or the 7-year plan, which whereby 70% of the Jordan Valley water was transferred into Israel from the southern of Tiberia onto Negev without passing through West Bank lands. And this is just to meet the Zionist dream. So they did not change. They kept on their so they're abiding by their vision. But because now we're running out of time, I just want to say that whatever is happening from the in institutionalization in Israel and of the limitation of water in projects in Palestine and desalination projects under the item of needs that we need, we have transformed the rights to needs. And here I want to summarize and say four important points. If the Palestinian people were able to control their water resources, whether the underground or our right in the Jordan Valley, then we are not in need to, we are not, and about getting the and we will have water, and we will not need a drop of water from outside Palestine if we were able to maintain this. The second point, regarding desalination, even if it was feasible, like politically at least, under the regional cooperation, even if this thesis was feasible, it's not economically feasible because we in the Gulf areas or in Malta or Israel, the average income of an individual is $35,000, and therefore he can afford to pay for the cost of water, whereas the citizen in the rural areas of Jenin or Jordan Valley cannot pay 2.6 percent for water or desalination, and this cost is rising or decreasing according to the fuel or oil prices. So Israel is under the pressure of the energy prices around the world. And the third point is that promotion that water is something that is cross borders and across continents and national policies. Well, yes, this is true as per the Furat River or the Nile River. There are countries that share or fight for these water. There's in Iraq, they don't talk about their need for water, about the right of ownership. Same for Al-Nahda Dam. They need to maintain their rights in Egypt and Sudan. And Ethiopians tell them, take as much water as you need, but we have a right. And they say, no, we have a historical right. And but as for Palestinians, I think they need to avoid the scenario of buying water from Israel. And if we buy water from Israel, means more dependency and more control from Israel to the tap, the water that runs in our taps in our homes, and that there will be no independent agricultural sector. And thank you very much.